Hey everyone, welcome to Smash Trivia. I'm your host, Smash Trivia John. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram by searching Smash Trivia to follow everything happening with me. I'll be the one with the big old green head in the profile picture. So excited to get into this. This is the Gamma Analysis. Basically, in this series, I'm going to review everything Hulk, all the movies, TV shows, and I also do random other geeky films. Occasionally, not so geeky ones too. And I also like to mix things up once in a while by not reviewing anything. Hope you enjoy Smash Trivia Presents The Gamma Analysis. I want to ask everyone listening if they can please do something for me. Please share the hell out of this podcast with all your friends. If you don't, Hulk will be angry. And Smash Trivia has a Patreon too, so please check that out. We have some fantastic extra content on there. I bet you'll have a Hulk smashing good time. The tiers are as follows: $1 a month is Hulkaholic for $1, $3 a month is The Reading Room with Hulky and Shulky, and $5 a month is Smashing the TV. I also now offer custom trivia games on Fiverr, so if you want to take your game night to the next level, you can hire me. A link to the Fiverr is in the episode description. The Gamma Analysis is also a part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. Now that we have all that important stuff out of the way, let's smash right into this episode.
Hello again, me popsicles, and welcome to Season 2 of Science Fiction Remnant.
Go ahead and grab your multipass, a drink, and sit back with us and geek out about sci-fi.
Let's pick each other's brain. We want you to be part of our intimate conversation about science fiction topics.
And hang around to the end of the episodes for the real-world science that was inspired by your favorite science fiction.
Let's do this. Let's talk about science fiction topics in books, movies, TV shows, and games.
At Science Fiction Remnant, you are invited to listen in.
Listen now on Apple Podcasts,
Spotify, Anchor,
Audible, Goodpods,
or whatever you listen to podcasts.
You can catch the video pods on our YouTube a month later.
and don't forget your multipass, you me popsicles.
Science Fiction Remnant is brought to you by the hashtag This Is Sci-Fi. No Captain and Cuties were harmed in the making of this commercial. Ba, 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 ba.
Hey, my Gamma friends. Today I'm joined by my co-host Keith. How you doing, Keith?
I'm doing good, John. How you doing?
I'm doing good. And we're going to be reviewing today Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. For our Hulkaholic for $1, we have Derek Sager, Gabriel Floral, Film Critter, and Stephen W. And I also, I just want to real quick say, since I had recently, Derek, one of our my patrons actually joined me for one of my B Smash reactions actions. Just as a thank you to him, I want to say, please check out the Going Merry podcast. As they are doing a lot of great stuff over there. They're going to be reviewing 5 episodes of One Piece each episode of their podcast. That is some impressive stuff. So please check them out.
Nice. Yeah, I've got to check out One Piece just to know what the hell they're going to be talking about. But I'm excited because
I'm
heard it's nuts.
they invited me to come on and I'm gonna be doing I'm gonna be on for episodes 21 through 25. I have to watch the first 20 episodes as well. Before getting to that.
Yeah, I think he asked me to be on like episodes 34 to 40 or something.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to watch quite a few as well. I'm gonna have to understand what the hell they're talking about.
Happily, it's gonna be a long time before your episode probably will come out.
How long are the episodes? The 20 minutes?
Like, he said they're usually about 20 minutes or so. But there's 5 minutes of like a intro or something and recap stuff. So you don't have to watch
Great.
that.
That's very anime of them.
And apparently also they're planning on if there is a massive block of filler episodes, they're not gonna be reviewing those because there's not anything to actually talk about.
Fair. Damn.
Yeah. All right. So before we actually start talking about Guardians Volume 3, I know people are probably gonna be annoyed by this, but I'm bringing up again the whole Disney pushing projects because of people complaining about Phase 4. This is very obviously, at least in my opinion, a bad decision business-wise for Disney. As earlier this year, it had been announced at the start of the first quarter of 2023, they had lost 3 million subscribers. And then again today, it was announced that today, as of filming, which is this is Wednesday, May 10th, and we're filming this. It was announced that they have that for the beginning of quarter 2, they've lost another 4 million subscribers, which I definitely think I think that is because of the lack of Marvel content, because because before there was no Marvel content, they were constantly gaining subscribers, and now they are losing subscribers. They're and also like their biggest time of gaining subscribers their first is when the first Marvel show came out. There was a 20 million in leap from it was 73 million before that, and then it was 94 million and after that. That's that is I would say that
that's a boom.
Marvel is definitely the feeling for a lot of people. They're the main reason that they're subscribed. So if having no Marvel content is not is going to make them unsubscribe, but also though that's not just Marvel's fault, I think, but also Disney is really fucked up with how they market Disney Plus, because most other stuff that's not Marvel or Star Wars, most people have no ideas even coming out when it comes out on Disney Plus. It's like nothing really else feels like it's a big deal to watch, and that's part of why they have to have constant Marvel or Star Wars content, or you're going to have people canceling.
Yeah, and to be honest, like I have found so many other things on Disney Plus. Like it's different here in Canada too. I know that we actually don't have Hulu available to us up here, so Hulu and Disney Plus are combined. So we get
which actually in America they also just announced today that later this year they're combining.
Good, yeah, because it's silly to keep them separate.
Which I feel like that is definitely the nail in the coffin for the crowd who are still like worried that Marvel's not gonna allow there to be a TVMA Marvel content.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was shocked to hear that I could get It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia on Disney Plus. I was like, wait, what? You just have to change your rating settings. And I was like, oh, okay. So I can turn my rating up to like adult and then watch anything. And it was really weird the amount of stuff that we could get. But I'm hooked currently on rewatching all Modern Family right now. Like The Simpsons are on there. It's a ton of good stuff.
Speaking of The Simpsons, I actually because I was not someone who watched The Simpsons growing up. My dad was very against adult cartoons. I actually started binge watching The Simpsons for the first time earlier this year in like January, and I've got into like the 7th season. There's still a long way to go, but it's gonna feel really good when I get to the end of that, because there's because that's quite an accomplishment if I'm gonna be able to actually get to like 33 seasons binge watching a show.
You're getting into it's funny because what I've noticed anyways, and maybe it's just subjective because I grew up with my favorite seasons I feel are before, I think, everything before season 14, maybe 13, somewhere around there.
So
I don't know what necessarily changed quality wise. I just didn't watch it as
is
much.
that
But
that I may be wrong here, but that sounds like it's probably like close to when the Simpsons movie would have come out.
I think so. Yeah. By the time the Simpsons movie came out, it kind of had missed the mark for my generation. I feel like a lot of people my age kind of grew out of watching it. So this movie came out and we were like, where were you like 5 years ago? What's going on? But some of the best episodes are definitely in that first 14. So I have no clue what the Simpsons are up to these days. I started seeing like, oh, they've got like a flat screen TV and like, but Bart and Lisa are still the same age. Like, what's going on? Like, you can't. You're moving forward to be more relatable technology wise, but you're not making your characters grow up. I thought it was kind of funny.
I think what's hardest about it is that they do reference years in the show. Because both they have as I've seen from these from what I've watched, like they have a lot of flashback episodes and they mention specific years of when characters were young, and they also though have episodes set in the future, and they always put a specific date on the ones that are set in the future. Like I'm pretty sure some of the ones set in the future are now in the past.
Oh yeah, and I grew up when I was watching it. I would have been about Bart's age, maybe Lisa's age, even at 8 years. She's in what, 4th grade? He's in 5th or something. Like I'm a millennial, and my parents were both baby boomers, so they are Marge and Homer's age, allegedly. And then you find out those flashbacks puts them in their childhood in like the 50s and 60s. It's like, okay, that makes sense. And then like 20 years go by, and now the Simpsons, Marge and Homer were born in like the 70s and 80s. Like, what the fuck's going on? Like, it's funny to me, but
one thing I find very interesting with these as I've been binge watching the show, because I'm still in episodes from the 90s, which is the point when there really was not like a hell of a lot of representation in movies and TV, and things were not super progressive. One thing I find very interesting, even though it has not been confirmed ever in the show, I think Grandpa Simpson is trans. They literally have they literally have episodes where Grandpa Simpson dreams about being a woman.
Wow.
Like that is.
So you think that he's like realizing it in his old age, like he's a late bloomer?
I think. I think there's possibly something to that, but also, they've had episodes where he was unable to take his medicine, and then without having his medicine, he started cross-dressing, which makes me think that there was there's something either someone didn't like the idea of him being trans, so they prescribed him medication to force him to not be, or it's just his family trying to protect him because from the times, because at that point people were not on accepting of that.
Well, what I remember, if I'm remembering I couldn't tell you the actual episode that you're referencing. But I think what might be happening because of the times being so backward, and in the 7th season, you said you're up to the 7th season now.
Yeah.
So what I think might have happened, and correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe there's lots of theories online that confirm this trans idea, but it could be that he wasn't taking his pills, and so they're like, oh, if he's off his pills, then he's acting erratically or insane, so let's have him do something loopy. And at the time in the 90s, they would think that cross-dressing was a sign of mental illness, so they go, oh, okay, let's do that. I just worry that that's how insensitive they might have been to the topic at the time.
Possibly. But what I also found interesting is do you I don't know if in later seasons he's still his character's still around or not, but he definitely was in a lot of the episodes from the older ones, so you probably would remember him. Do you remember a character that was Grandpa's best friend? He had a really long white beard.
Oh yeah.
Well, in the
That's a
episode where
beard.
he forgot his medication, or he was unable to get his medications because as he was locked out of the Simpsons house while they were on vacation.
He gets
That
in the
best-
car with him.
That best friend character
Yeah.
actually called him a woman,
Yeah.
a woman, and and wanted to go on a date
Yeah.
with him, which I feel like if they were like just trying to say that he's that Grandpa Simpson's crazy without his medication, I feel like they would have his like friend like not recognize him or something without his
Yeah,
medication.
Fair.
I think that I feel like there is a little bit sign to that. But it's
I
never
like
been
it. I like your theory.
confirmed.
I would love to see that it gets confirmed.
They-
If you're
they-
seeing future seasons, let me know.
They have and one thing I'm interested in. This is, I feel like, partially supposed to be a joke, but also I think is maybe a little bit trying to inch towards or its representation is Smithers is very obviously gay, and they just did not confirm it or in the early seasons,
Mhm.
but it's very obvious. There's even an episode where they actually have a joke where where what's his name, the boss at the nuclear plant,
Mr. Burns.
Mr. Burns, actually is like, are you going to be doing gay things this weekend? And what he actually just means like happy go lucky things.
Yeah, because he's like
but he's
105
yeah, but it's very obvious that that's what they're teasing, and and it doesn't really feel like it's just as like a joke against gay people. It seems like
No.
they're just fine. I'm with having there be a gay character in the show, even
Mhm.
back in the 90s, which I find that to be really cool, actually.
Well, the Simpsons have more often than not been progressive for the time. Trans issues were just not at all talked about
Yeah.
in the 90s.
I
So
see. Yeah.
even trying to wrap your head around them it wasn't necessarily, it was just ignorance. It wasn't intentional ignorance, I think,
Mhm.
for most people at
Oh,
the
yeah.
time. But yeah, it just that was the thing that if you showed that you were not only tolerant but forward thinking and accepting of the gay people in the 90s, you were super based and red pilled.
Oh, one last thing I do want to mention before we actually get into the Guardians of the Galaxy, with that I noticed with these Disney Plus numbers of their subscriber rate, I still get right wing dude bros on Twitter who act like who try to say that that She-Hulk was not a popular show. They're during the time that She-Hulk was airing, and they gained 12 million subscribers. Iris, well, the previous quarter, or they made they did 15, so it wasn't as popular as the previous quarter, but that is a quarter where you just had She-Hulk and Andor, versus the quarter before that you had Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. That so I would actually say it may not be the most popular Marvel show, but it's definitely decent. It was definitely decently popular. And I think the thing that a lot of people fail to realize is just because something is shit on online or it's not talked about online does not mean it's not popular, because our ideas of what's popular is very skewed because of social media. Social media does not actually determine what is popular. There actually have been like studies that have been done that found that a lot of times shows that aren't popular on social media are extremely popular actually in real life. They and get
Mhm.
a lot of it, like this particular study. I mentioned, if I remember right, that one of the most popular shows on TV currently is one that's not talked about at all on social media. A lot of people on social media may not even know it exists, and that is Yellowstone.
Yeah, yeah, because the demographic is not the type that is going to be on social media as
Mhm.
much. It is a super Western drama like series that I've
Oh yeah,
heard is
that's
very
it's
good,
saying that
but it's it's
it's
gonna
saying
attract the
that
older crowds too.
most people probably, if you asked your parents if they watch it, you'll probably find out they do. Oh, not but young people aren't, so it's not on social media, but it's still an extremely popular thing. Look, I feel I think the people like just for some reason have this idea that if that is something being is only popular if it's being talked about on social media, and
Yeah.
that's not really the case. It's just that is the loudest crowd.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's this. You've heard the old analogy or the old idiom, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Like the if you think of every person who is angry about She-Hulk online
Mhm.
having 5 people in their life who were talking positively about that show, and not necessarily friends or anything, but like maybe coworkers or whatever, just people they know that liked the show. That's probably more accurate to what it was like
Oh yeah,
because
it's
the people who are loudest are the people who are upset. Negative
yeah.
thoughts breed hateful
Mhm.
posts and hateful rhetoric online. So those are the people
Yeah.
if you were to be curious about She-Hulk and not know anything about the fucking thing, you go online and you see, oh man, it's just like review bombing.
Yeah.
Those reviews are not sincere. They are meant to try and
Oh
stop
yeah.
somebody from assuming that something's good. But not everybody
Mm.
who watches something writes a review about it on Rotten Tomatoes. So
Yeah,
why would they?
and also though, the majority of people who are not on social media are not nearly as critical of stuff
Mhm.
as they are on social media, because as they just want to have fun watching something. They don't
Yeah.
they're not looking for some deep meaning and stuff.
Yeah, I can attest to the fact that since doing podcasts in the last year, I have gotten way more critical
Oh
about
yeah.
what I watch. And there's a part of me that is looking for things to pick apart and looking for things to criticize just to have an edge, I guess, to before somebody else points something out. And it is something I have to make sure
Hmm.
that that part of me takes a back seat. Um, and that kind of comes back to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, if there is such a tether I could make there.
Okay. So let's get into the Guardians side. First off, I want to hear your opinion on the fact that there's no deaths in the film.
So overall, that's going to be a big thing that I talk about with the Avengers as well. Is the and I was going to actually wrote a script out for Assemble tomorrow because Assembled happens tomorrow night on
Mhm.
Twitch with the Avengers, and I did write in a part where I'm responding to you because I know you have called me out or at least asked me to kind of elaborate on that idea that a movie has to have deaths in it to be good, or that deaths in a movie, if meaningful deaths in a movie can make a movie more meaningful. I honestly feel like when watching Quantumania, knowing what Quantumania was supposed to be setting up with the bad guy of Kang, the gravitas that he's supposed to have, and just sitting through the movie, and I've seen it a couple times now, the story overall was weaker than other movies I've seen. I think it just felt like it was foreshadowing to something great, like Hank going out with a bang and going out in a heroic fashion. I think that the fact that they kind of made me feel like that's the way they were going and then didn't pay it off, it just was a disservice to the movie. And I think
Mhm.
that it could have been a more impactful movie if it did that with a great character that we've seen 3 times now, and he's getting older, and he would have had this big out, and it would have served to make Kang more terrifying and
Mhm.
raise the stakes in that way.
Okay.
With this
Yeah.
movie, it was with Guardians, it was marketed as if these characters were going to die. It was not only were we aware that this was James Gunn's last hurrah, not only were we aware that this was the last time we were probably going to ever see Drax, last time we were ever going to probably see Gamora, but also they marketed it like Rocket was going to die. There's no doubt about that they were at least setting up the red herring of this beloved character is probably going to die. And they did kill quite a few characters in this movie, at least the what I call the Rat Pack of the misfit animals that the High Evolutionary was raising, his best friends. They kill them off, and that is kind of as much death as I needed to see to believe that the High Evolutionary meant business and was serious about what he was doing and could be scary. He instantly was more scary to me than Kang. But did I need the Guardians or any of them to die for the movie to be good? No. At all.
So
it was a good script.
I was very much ready to actually fight because and I actually thought a lot about this after watching the film. I wasn't sure how I felt after watching it with there not being any deaths of the Guardians, but as I thought about it more, I was thinking it would have been the worst idea ever for there to be a death of the Guardians. The reason I say that is because these characters deserve a happy ending.
Yes,
they have had. There was Quill's mother died in Guardians Volume 1. Groot died in Guardians Volume 1. In Guardians Volume 2, Yondu died. Quill's father died. We have Gamora dies in Infinity War. These people have dealt with so much trauma and death. They deserve a happy ending. And I think that was probably about the smartest decision that James Gunn made with this film, to not kill any of them off. I will say there are some decisions made I do not like with the and this is a problem not just with James Gunn, but also with the Russo brothers. So the reason I say also the Russo brothers is because this involves both Infinity War and Endgame, AIM and Drax.
Yeah,
Drax's arc was fucked up.
Oh,
it got destroyed. Drax's arc from the original Guardians made us think that he was going to get a chance to get revenge on Thanos for his dead family. He never once interacted with Thanos, I don't believe.
You're right. You're right. The closest we get to him having that arc is him face to face getting his ass handed to him by Ronan, who he is falsely accusing of killing his family. I agree. Yeah, you're not wrong. It is a disservice to Drax to pent up this anger and show us a vengeful story arc and then not have that payoff. I agree. And it made him kind of a lost character for the last couple years, as having no real he came back from the blip. And then we see him in the Guardians Christmas special. And this, and it's like, okay, so the only way to pay off his character is to make him a dad again.
Arcs is my major thing of why that I have against this film. Both Drax and then also another is Groot has no arc throughout any of the films. He has no arc.
You mean New Groot? Groot
2? New Groot has no arc.
Yeah,
there wasn't really a lot of arc within the first film for Groot. He just, I guess,
he revealed
decided to be friends with people, which from the beginning of the film we knew that he was a softie.
That's true.
So Groot has not had any actual arc. He has had transformations in his character looks wise, but he hasn't really had any actual arc in character development.
I'll be honest with you. This is the first time I've thought of Groot having an arc since being Baby Groot, since the sacrifice of first Groot, like a Papa Groot, whatever you want to call him. I think the only thing that I can say for Groot as an arc, if we're going from baby Groot to teenage Groot to the one we've seen most recently, is that what I found different about him this time around in the third movie only is he was not a dumbass. And to be fair, there wasn't a moment that I could think of where Groot was like, they get like baby Groot where he's like, I am Groot. Like he thinks he's supposed to press this button even though he's told a billion times not to press it. And like and teenage Groot is like playing video games all the time. He's not really doing anything. He does grab Thor's and make Thor's Stormbreaker
like,
hammer.
There's definitely great moments with Groot,
comes in clutch.
Groot, particularly like things with the innings with him being willing to sacrifice his own arm for Thor's axe. But yeah, I don't. I love everything that was done with Groot, but I think there should have been a lot more done with Groot.
Yeah, I think that he was definitely a back seat character for this one, and I think he has been a kind of a backseat character, maybe even all the way through, except for maybe Baby Groot. Like I feel like Baby Groot got the most screen time, got the most interest, because that's something you could slap on a lunchbox.
The best thing, thing that this film did is follow up on something that we eyeing that wasn't actually like you would actually know from the film, but actually James Gunn said it on social media, which is that this Groot feels like Rocket is his dad, as in Infinity War. James Gunn literally said that when Groot got snapped,
dusted.
He said Ed Daddy, and so I love how they made sure within this film that that we had Groot standing around Rocket, scared that his father is gonna die.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that not only did I love Groot, because again, I haven't thought about Groot specifically in this movie from a story standpoint. I was extremely excited when they utilized him as much as they did. Not only was he hiding the guns, but he also could bring out some wings. He was able to kaiju. He was able to like become King Groot at the end. Like they utilized the many transformations that he's capable of, but he didn't really have a story. You're right.
So speaking of the King Groot thing, so actually where they had him turn into the kaiju Groot, as they call him in the film, that's actually what if I remember right, what King Groot looks like in the comics, and then what they had him turn into at the end of the film, very end of the film, that is actually what normal Groot looks like in the comics.
Yeah, I know he's
terrifying
huge.
Creature
he's massive.
In the comics.
Yeah, I love that. And to your point about having everybody have a happy ending, what I found so satisfying about this ending, and everybody does go off and explore. Okay, so you've got a few people that you can explore with. Now we can see Mantis go do something else. She could pop up in an Eternals movie or Avengers movie or something, and see where she's gone with the Abelisks. The weird color vomiting battery eaters. And then you've got Quill, which is rumored to have some future role. That's great. Now, the ones that I maybe want to see again, but never need to, are Rocket and Groot. For the fact that I am just happy that they are together and that they're still calling themselves the Guardians and kicking ass together. That is so comforting to know.
James Gunn actually said that apparently he had thought about, before doing Guardians 3, trying to do a Rocket and Groot spin-off film, which I'm guessing that would have been like a prequel to equal about them before meeting the rest of the Guardians, which I think that would have been a great thing thing for them to really help for particularly for Groot to have a good arc. I still wish that we got to really to explore a bit about the backstory of Groot and the rest of the Flora Colossus, this race. Like we didn't have anything about that. We got throughout the three films, a good bit about backstory for all the rest of the Guardians, but we didn't in either versions of Groot. We didn't get anything like that.
Well, I have to admit total ignorance on this one. I have no idea what you're talking about. What did you just call it? The Floor Colossus race?
Yes,
That's his name. That's the name.
The
of where
name
who-
of
the
the
people?
name of the tree
That's an
people
awesome name.
in Marvel are Flora Colossus.
I mean, now just the name alone got me chills. I would love to see
I want
anything about that.
One of the things I really want to know is like what happened to them that created this speech impediment that made it so they can only say the same thing again and again.
Yeah,
And-
I mean that, and they can play with that now. And I know
Mhm.
Vin Diesel has no problem with returning as the voice of Groot.
Yeah.
They could also get
Yeah.
anybody with it. You just get
I
Vin
feel like-
Diesel to sign off on it. Who cares?
I definitely think like out of all of the Guardians, Vin Diesel definitely seems like he's the most into his role, and he would be happy to return for anything.
Yeah.
And I don't say that as like a joke because as he doesn't have a lot of work to do. As Groot, and he just gets a massive paycheck. No, I say that as it's very obvious he loves the character of Groot now, based on every a Guardians premiere or Infinity or
Yeah.
Endgame. He
Yeah.
wears Groot themed outfits.
Yeah, I
You
love that.
gotta like a character a lot if you're going to do that. Like,
Yeah, it's
and the
true.
thing is,
And
a lot of people make the joke about his saying like, oh, he just has to say this one line.
yeah,
The guy has to say it thousands of times.
it's very reductive to say that he's not, acting when he is saying it in so many different ways. He's
Yeah.
saying it. He went and voiced him in so many different languages too. Like
Yeah.
he is very committed to this very cool character. Yeah, he's not probably the guy in the mocap suit or whatever they're doing
Well,
to
I mean, yeah,
add
I mean,
animation to him. But
Uh,
why
yeah,
would he
the,
be?
which do you know who does the mocap and like and all the stuff for when for Groot on set?
Well, I know that James Gunn was the mocap baby group for the dance at the beginning of the second movie, but I didn't know.
I don't know if he actually does all of it, but I do know at the very least he also did another dance thing in the scene where there is singing in the holiday
Florence and the Machine?
special.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And he's in the background dancing, and
Yeah.
that was James Gunn again.
Also James Gunn. That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that he can inject himself into being like one of the team in that way because his brother, who plays
Mhm.
Sean Gunn, who plays Kraglin, he was Rocket Raccoon mocap for the entire first movie, which I
Oh,
was like, dude, there's other people you could give this to, but that's so cool that he made it kind of like a family thing.
Well, I think
he's
it's
so
I
often
think
accused
it's-
of.
It's I think the reason he does that is that I'm guessing Sean Gunn must have some kind of background in motion capture, because he also had him do and be the Weasel in
Yeah.
in the Suicide Squad. I think there's something there of like he's James just
physicality,
knew
and
that
he
he
likes it,
knew
yeah.
he's really good at that kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Sean Gunn is very much a physical actor. He's got a very good grasp on how to breathe life into those kind of product or those kind of characters. And I think that makes the most sense too, to have your brother who, he's an actor as well. So
Yeah.
get him not only playing Kraglin, but get him doing as much as he can.
Now, a couple of cameos in the film that I want to bring up. One, I am so happy that Nathan Fillion finally got to actually appear in a Guardians film. He's
Yeah.
filmed stuff for every Guardians film, and it got cut until now.
Did it get cut in the second one? Because he was the
Mhm.
green guy in the first movie that got like Groot's fingers up his nose in the prison. I know that. He was just voicing him though. I think he was
I
probably
believe
mocap
he
too,
told.
but
I believe
he did something
was.
for number 2.
Yeah, he did. I believe he he may have. I don't remember that in the prison, but I do remember hearing that there was one, like, at least either other role from the first one that he was going to play, where he was, and I seem to remember it being him. It's supposed to be him piloting some ship, and it was and it got cut. And then in the second film, he actually was cast to play a Simon Williams, I believe is the name, which is a movie star in Marvel Universe, and he was just going to appear in posters that were outside a movie theater, I think, during like the scenes where they flashed over the Earth because of Ego's like glob thing.
Simon Williams, that's Wonder Man.
Yes.
That's the character. Okay, because
yes,
I remember
Simon,
I think Anthony was talking about that.
Yeah. So he was cast as Wonder Man by James Gunn and then got cut. But and then
so now anybody can be.
But then now after they announced the Wonder Man series, people wanted Nathan Fillion to be able to continue doing that after, because letting him get the actual chance to play the character. But Marvel decided instead to go with something Abdul.
Abdul Mateen II. He is amazing in many things. He was incredible in the Watchmen series. He's incredible in Candyman. He's a good actor.
I'm definitely very excited for that. I think that's gonna be a lot of fun. That show's gonna be. I
also think picking someone a little younger is a good idea too. Because honestly, as much as I love Nathan Fillion, I just saw him dating the oldest daughter on Modern Family. And he was supposed to be playing 45 or something years old. He's 52 now. I know I sound ageist, but I think I'm allowed to sound ageist.
I can definitely understand that. Like, I feel the same way about out actors playing Wolverine. I don't want someone in their 50s playing Wolverine.
I love Hugh Jackman. Don't get me wrong. But we need a younger guy.
I'm happy to see Hugh Jackman one more time. But I don't want an actual MCU Wolverine to be that age. It's like I have a lot of people, including people who are friends of this podcast, want I can't remember his name. The guy from The Boys. The guy from and also appeared
Butcher.
in Thor Ragnarok. Yeah.
Yes.
Why
am I forgetting his fucking name? Carl Urban.
Carl Urban. But like, he is literally older than Hugh Jackman was during Logan.
No, let Carl Urban go play Johnny Cage in the sequel to the
that.
Mortal Kombat
I feel
movie.
like
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I'm like, I would rather a much younger actor, because I want Wolverine to be a character that can be in the MCU for a long time. I don't want like in less than 10 years him to be in his 60s.
I want Daniel Radcliffe because I'm a psychopath. I want him so bad now. Someone turned me around on the idea, and I'm like, I'm not going back on it now. I'd love to see that.
I've been in on Daniel Radcliffe train for a couple of years now. Like this, I really want him because he's such a great actor.
Well, Katie wasn't allowed to watch the Harry Potter movies growing up. She did not allowed to read the books because they were like part of the occult and stuff like that. So then we go into watching anything else that Daniel Radcliffe is in, like since Harry Potter, and his agent must be a freaking genius, or maybe he just chooses his roles, but holy crap, his movies are good. Like Swiss Army Man's incredible. I just watched his recent, not a recent one, but I watched Jungle, where it's like a true life story about a guy in the 80s who got lost in the Amazon rainforest. Like, it's fucked, man. He's so good.
Two Daniel Radcliffe films that I really want to watch. I have not seen yet. I want to see Guns Akimbo and Horns.
Horns is we watched that too last summer. Oh my god, Horns!
Like, it looks like an interesting. They both look like really interesting films. And like, I really do feel like with the amount of range he has shown from different roles, he would definitely be able to get a good as Wolverine, and he is the round the right height. The only thing about him I wish was different, but sadly I don't see there being much chance of this happening. Is I wish they actually were able to get like a Canadian actor, but the thing is, there's not a lot of Canadian actors that feel like they would
the
fit.
part. Yeah. Canada, it's weird that it's almost like Canada is exclusively known for gangly comedians, like skinny, tall comedian dudes. And I'm purely thinking of Ryan Reynolds and Jim Carrey in that camp, because Seth Rogen is definitely not and should not play Wolverine, but he also isn't gangly. But no, I think that as long as they just emphasize and point out that Wolverine is Canadian, maybe show his roots. I don't care that he's not played by a Canadian.
And I definitely think
Canada is filled with different people from different nationalities.
I definitely think that that Daniel Radcliffe is the kind of person who will happily bulk up his body to make it so so his muscles are like Wolverine's.
Ripped. I would love to see him get ripped in, of course, a safe and responsible way, but more ripped than Hugh Jackman was the first time he played Wolverine would be dope. I would love to see that.
Yeah. To be honest, one thing I do kind of wish is that CGI could get to a point where films could just CGI muscles or any kind of body transformation. I say that from a health standpoint, of like, I don't like the idea of an actor destroying having to destroy their body for this. Like, Chris Hemsworth has talked about how the amount of workout he has to do for these films has destroyed his body, and that's not a good thing. No. Like, I've seen there's so many body transformations that what's his name? Christian Bale. Christian Bale has done, and those cannot be good for your body.
No, skinny.
Like, I feel like
if there's a healthy way to get ripped and healthy way to get fit, do that absolutely. The type of thing that you're talking about with like Christian Bale or like Tom Hanks in his earlier years, he was going skinny to fat to skinny, and it's just like, you don't need to, that's incredibly unhealthy. That's more unhealthy than working out every day. But
like, I don't think CGI is at the point where yet where they can just do that, but I hope they can get to a point where they can, because I don't want actors to have to destroy their bodies just for a role.
Very true.
So and then the other cameo is quite an obvious one that but I'm very happy that they got on. Hopefully there'll be more, but at least one last Howard the Duck cameo. I'm so happy about that. I'm honestly though, I really do hope they can get the character to Earth, so that we can get so we can actually get him interacting with some other characters.
Well, he came to Earth for Endgame. He was in that big battle. He just got to stay for a while and let us follow him around with cameras.
That would be interesting. Howard the Duck, like, documentary style, documentary style thing.
I would love a found footage Howard the Duck movie where they were just like, "Oh, I'm an investigative reporter or something. I'm gonna follow you around. Is that okay?" And he's just like, "Yeah, whatever. Just get me home." Like, he just like, I would love to see that. That'd be a really fun take on a Marvel movie that no one expected to see any money put into.
I don't know why, but like, my first thought on this was actually like Howard finding Kingo's assistant and forcing him to record him.
What's his name? Garan?
Something like that.
I
think that would be hilarious. He's like, you're going to record my life and tell people about me, or I'm gonna kill you.
Tell my story, bitch. That would be cool. I would love that. The honestly, the amount of gripes that I have with this movie, and it's honestly sat with me, Guardians Volume 3. It is, now that I've
not the non-existent found footage Howard the Duck film.
really talking about a lot of things right now. But no, and I'm gonna see it again on Friday. But the honestly, this movie made me happier the longer I sat with it, the more I thought about it. The gripes I have gone down to maybe 3. They're not super heavy or like they didn't break the movie for me. This movie, the biggest gripes I have is I liked that Star-Lord had like swollen face because of space moment. It was a fake out.
Wow.
We were all expecting him
was
to
one where I
maybe
was like,
die. We're like, what the fuck are you doing? You can't kill
That
him.
was one
Not
where
now.
I was gonna be pissed as if he died in that moment.
It was so
Not
weak
because
to go
I-
back for the Zune.
Yeah,
Like,
not
really?
not because I have a problem with Star-Lord dying, but because
What a stupid
to
reason.
die for the Zune.
How did that Zune not get downloaded to anywhere else? Like, what are they doing?
I understand it's and it is a very emotional object for him because Yondu gave it to him, but still
Yeah.
was not worth his death.
It's also like, where was his helmet? And I know people are mad about that online. Like, where was his helmet? That makes no sense. Where he goes
Did you
nowhere
see
without it.
any-
It's on his ear.
I actually sent you a message of where James Gunn responded to that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Well,
it's a great a response, but what he said was that they had to leave nowhere really quickly, and the helmet was just in his drawer or somehow, or which is
If the thing can
a
fit-
really bad bad explanation, but that is an explanation, I guess.
The only other gripes I really have with the movie, I'm trying to think of them now. It's tricky. I think people are complaining a little too much about Adam Warlock. I think that character has a lot of space to grow. I was I was not a big fan of the Orgo Corp, I think it's called. That first third of the movie, I think, is this big mission leading up to this organically grown planet. And to me, the look of it was annoying.
Disgusting.
The suits were gross. Like, the suits looked like shit. Like, I just didn't like. I know they were going for camp and they were going for silliness, and that was the whole thing. And a lot of funny things happened in that place. A lot of great scenes and dialogue happened between Quill and Nebula and Quill and Gamora. A lot of great funny gags. Like, Drax kicked the shit out of a bunch of guys. That was a lot of fun to watch. And him being like, or Mantis like making the guy fall in love with him was really funny. Like, a lot of good things happened, but overall, I think the visual design of that place was really, really awful to look at. When they got to Counter Earth, then I felt like the movie started. So that to me was like, okay, that's a first half or first part that could probably be changed or tweaked.
One thing I have not seen anyone mention, and that I've heard so many people talk about out Quill's helmet, but there's another set of objects that didn't I don't remember appearing in the film. I may be wrong, but I think but I don't remember or ever actually seeing Drax's blades,
except for the hallway scene. I noted that when they did the one-shot hallway shot, they went above and beyond to like give us suspense to the point where we were like, okay, Drax is not the same Drax. He's not shirtless. He's not using blades anymore. He's not vengeful. But then he gets to that hallway scene, and suddenly when you cut to Drax's part of that hallway montage, he has this gigantic knife that he pins a guy to a wall, and the guy hangs sideways for a second because the blade's so damn long, and he's stuck to the wall while Drax like hammer fists his head or something. It was dope.
Okay, I did not remember that moment, but I
distinctly remember because I haven't seen his blades in so long. I was like, where the hell are his knives?
Yeah,
he's in the comic books constantly, isn't he?
He had them, I believe, in both Infinity War and Endgame. But I don't remember him having them much of this film, which those are very distinct to his character, I think.
Yeah, it's like Star-Lord turning to Gamora in the beginning of the second movie and saying, "Well, guns are my thing, and swords, swords have always been your thing." It's like Drax's thing has always been his two big ass knives. Like it's
Yeah.
in the comic book covers, every
That
single
he's-
Guardians movie or
Yeah, that
comic book
he's-
I've picked up, he's got
He's
these giant
gotta
knives.
stab things from the inside out with them.
Yeah. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. The skin's the same thickness from the inside. Yeah, that's what I said. I love that. We rewatched both the first two
Oh,
movies
man.
before going to see it the other day, and yeah, that part really made me laugh my ass off. Cut to Dave Bautista just going to town on the inside of this thing. It's really funny. And then he thought he'd single-handedly defeated it, of course. My only other gripe was and I'm sure this would be the one that I get the most shit for. I did not love the repetitiveness of the scenes with Lila, Floor, and Teef. I found that those scenes detracted a lot. Like if you're gonna flash back and forth, like I wanted to see Rocket more than anybody, and to get so much build up for seeing him. I'm glad we got him in the present day, like the Avengers were talking about, the present time Rocket. We don't see very much because he's always having flashbacks to tell his story. Great, okay, but each of those flashbacks, the moments with the High Evolutionary were useful. The moments with the three friends were repetitive. They just kept saying the same things. It's good to have friends. We're going to get out of here. It's good to have friends over and over and over again. It's like, okay, we get it. You're friends. Like it wasn't, I didn't care about Floor and Teefs at all. I barely cared about Lila. Like I didn't see or hear anything important from them. You know what I mean?
The
biggest impact was them dying, right? So there's my death pink, I guess. They have to have death in a movie. It's like, let's show you the impactful death.
I do think it's funny how they when they had the scene of Rocket thinking he had died, it very much it very much to me looked exactly the same as when Harry died in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows.
And he brought that up. And he brought that up, man.
Yeah, because it's
exactly the same thing. You're right.
Like, that's such an interesting reference to me that I'm like, I'm surprised they did that.
I think it was an oversight. Honestly, I think they were like, oh, do we have any like canned heavenly places? And then maybe they just had the same, like maybe someone shipped it over from Warner Brothers or something. They're like, here you go.
I do think I'm not sure how I felt though about like how it felt like a very cliche though of them saying it's not your time yet.
It's been your story all along, Rocket. It's like, what the fuck?
Like that was like throughout that ad, I was feeling like exactly like in Deadpool 2, when he's like it's not, when Vanessa's like, it's not your time yet.
Yeah, you got to go back and be a family to these ragtag group of people. Yeah, and then he does, and he's got a team finally, and it's like it's not even the team he was hoping for. Yeah, I agree. It's a little canned, a little silly.
No,
didn't feel as impactful as it could have. But
we haven't talked a lot actually about High Evolutionary. I think that the actor did an incredible job in this role. I've seen people try to I say, since there's a possibility that Jonathan Majors might need to be recast as Kang. I've seen people try to say that they should just make that High Evolutionary is a variant of Kang and make all the rest of them played by this actor, which I'm not sure how to feel about. I'm like, that kind of
you don't need
like
to. It's a little racist.
Yeah, I'm like, that's like, yeah, this is a good actor, but it's not like they look similar.
Yeah, and the character isn't similar, and he can be all powerful, but he's drunk and he's obsessed about being the best and being a god. And I don't think Kang has the same. It's silly because Kang's like a conqueror. Kang is it's weird. It draws the line between a god and a king,
Mhm.
Kang wants to be a king of places. He wants to have conquered everything. Whereas the High Evolutionary wants to get rid of everything that sucks and replace it with
Mhm.
his best perfection. And it's a difference. It's a really keen, and that's, there's probably about, you can probably count how many different kinds of
Mhm.
bad guy missions or manifestos there are in the history of film and media. And these are two of the most common ones for sure.
Mhm.
But
Oh yeah.
yeah, these two are very different.
What I do really find interesting though about High Evolutionary, and this is something I talked to my mom about because we went to see this together. My mom is a avid Christian, and she was like, she said, "I don't like that he's trying to play God."
Shocking.
I'm like,
From a Christian. Shocking.
so, and I was like, well, going deeper into that, what you're saying is you don't like the idea of a person um destroying a whole species because they want to make it better, which is
Yeah.
exactly what God did with Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
So how can you have a problem with that but not have a problem with it if it's God doing that?
And also, how about the religious symbolism too? You mentioned Noah's Ark, and what did we get at the end of that movie? This Guardians 3 with everything running over from
Oh
the
yeah.
ship to the nowhere. Oh, that was brilliant. I was like, this is
Oh yeah.
they're the new this is the newest the Noah's Ark scenario. Like this is so cool. I love
Mhm.
that. But the idea of it was very much like, oh, let's save everything because everything deserves to have a life.
Mhm.
Instead of just scrapping the drafts of people or things.
Mhm. So, real quick, we're going to take a pause on this. So, we'll be back in just a little bit. People listening will not even notice us because I'm going to pause the recording. All right, and we're back. Next thing I want to talk about is about, and this is something I think is probably about the dumbest criticism I've heard about this film.
Yeah.
And that is people complaining that that James Gunn put his wife in the film. The
Oh my
so
god.
people
What a bunch of
never
whiny fucking babies.
people never had a problem with him putting his brother in the film.
Yeah,
They
seriously.
never have a problem with him putting Nathan Fillion in the film, who was his friend. Never had a problem with him putting Michael Rosenbaum in the film, which is his
Or
friend,
Michael Rooker,
or Michael Rooker.
who's been in a billion
Okay.
of his things. He's a big friend.
It seems very obvious to me that they only care about that because she's a woman. Like
Yeah,
that
100%.
feels
It is sexism.
like people never complain about how all of Kevin Smith's friends appear in all of Kevin Smith movies is
Yeah.
like you're like it's like so obvious that that's the only reason they care.
Yeah.
Like they would not care otherwise.
At the beginning of his, I don't want to say reign at DC, but the announcement of what he was going to change, and he came out with all these announcements that were very public facing. It's very kind of him. He doesn't have to do that. I think that him being in charge of the DC roster now is a little bit. He has to deal with a little bit more public facing stuff. Like he is definitely the guy to be the Kevin Feige of DC. I want him to interview and talk about projects and bolster a certain excitement because he is such a nerd. I love that. But I also don't think he doesn't have to give an explanation for everything. He doesn't have to address the hate. I think he needs to get off Instagram and go work on some stuff and get away from the hate, because it sucks to see him. I would hate to see him quit within like 2 years because he's just dealing with ridiculous people.
Like though how on Twitter he likes to debunk when people are like people put fake scoops out there. I do like that.
That would be, I would love to see that forever. As long as it's stuff that isn't like, oh, it's just a red herring to keep you off the scent of what I'm really gonna do, which is gonna be way better. It's fine for him to just go out and debunk and be like, no, you're full of shit. It's not happening.
Yeah. Wait. The thing is, like, people complain. People have been complaining about the fact that his wife has been appearing in a lot of stuff at DC as well. The thing is, as he actually mentioned, he said on Twitter, he only casted her in the Suicide Squad, and then because it made sense to bring her character back, he brought her character back in Peacemaker. He had nothing to do with her appearing in either Black Adam or in Shazam. He had nothing to do with that. Those were decisions and made by people before he was put in charge of DC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know why?
No.
Because she's talented.
Oh yeah.
She's not bad at what she does.
She's a great actress.
She's funny in Peacemaker.
Yeah.
She's engaging, and she's also very charismatic. She does a great job. So to just take her out because nepotism or favoritism, it's like, shut up. Just try to enjoy yourself, for God's sake. And that is what I mean when I said that since podcasting, I feel I've had a certain need to kind of look for flaws and look for things to complain about and criticize. Like, I was trying to address that a while ago with the like pre and post superhero fatigue idea of what I was like way back when these movies first started, and how I was like happy to see all of it. Give me all the good, the bad, and the ugly. I don't care. Like, but having a positive attitude and stop being so damn critical all the time is what I want to try and do going forward. Because honestly, Guardians 3 was the blast.
Whole thing. My whole idea of how of why I try to be I find the positive in things is I love the philosophy of how Kevin Smith feels. Kevin Smith has talked about this exact thing. He's like, if you do not have the talent to make a film, then you should not be complaining about other people's films and acting like acting like a film should not exist because you didn't like it. I like that is I think is a very good perspective to have. If you're not willing to put your foot in the ring and make your own film, then you shouldn't be complaining about everybody else's films.
They're incredibly hard to make.
Yeah, there's so much blood, sweat, and tears put into these things. So it annoys me to see massive amounts of criticism on things that don't really need to be criticized that much. Like, what I care most about criticizing is when there's things that are like they're failing to do representation right, because those are important things. I care more about that than how well a story is put together. I think that that's important to have that perspective. If I'm not going to lie to you and say that I just think that every film is perfect. I criticize this film, but I'm not going to just shit all over it throughout this review. I did enjoy the film because I just enjoy movies, and that's as simple as that. I had a lot of drama on social media the other day because I posted something that was honestly a trap for right wingers, because I thought it would be funny. Bring up how if Lord of the Rings came out now, it would be called woke. It would be because of the scene where they in Return of the King, and Erwin, I think is maybe the name, Aim said, "I am no man" to Sauron on or whatever it's called.
I think it was. She was saying that to the Witch King or whatever, like the head of the ring wraiths. Yeah, she did.
So,
that's woke,
they
man.
were trying to, and they were trying to say that two things. One, that people were trying to respond with one, it's in the original work, so that doesn't it makes it so it's not woke. Which, if that were the case, then is that people shouldn't have been calling She-Hulk woke because it's exactly like the original comics. Which, they were insistent. I said no, it's not when I brought that up. And then also they said we don't call things woke if they're written well. If they're good things, they won't call them woke. I know that The Boys, Peacemaker, Miss Marvel have all been called woke, even though these are things that are almost
Incredibly well-written,
universally loved by everyone. I know, like, I'm pretty sure Miss Marvel nearly has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I was like, that's like. You're just literally lying if you're saying that it's just if things are bad writing, then that's when you'll call them woke. You're just lying at that point.
It's funny because the woke has become such a derogatory term now, that the right has taken upon themselves to call everything that is progressive, female forward, minority forward, like all these progressive ideals. But the left, or maybe they won't, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, left listeners, but when I'm watching Endgame, and that scene at the big battle at the end comes up where all the women are suddenly in the exact same spot on the battlefield, marching toward Thanos to stop anyone from intercepting the gauntlet, and all these women are in the exact same spot, and it's a big women empowerment moment. I say that moment was shoehorned or pandering, but I will never use the word woke to describe that, because that word is dirty to me, because it means that shit should never happen.
It's like
when the exact same thing was done in Infinity War and done better, where she has friends. That moment
people
where
try to people try to ask right wingers, like, what does woke mean? They always have such much trouble answering that, but it's so easy to figure out what that means. It's literally being able to see outside of yourself, of waking up, seeing the outside of yourself to how other people live lives and that they exist. And it's simple as that. So how can it be bad for science to be woke?
I'm currently in my I don't even know how many times I've watched the series, but in my most recent rewatching of the series, The Walking Dead, I'm now in season 5, and I know that the show after season 4 kind of ebbs and flows. There's a lot of there's a lot of
I'm pretty sure
confusion.
I fell off at season 5 or so.
Yeah, there's a lot of dissenting interest, a lot of people who don't want to stick with it, and I get that. I think that it's one of those shows, though, that very, very slyly started having more female writers, more female directors, and more focus gets put on the plight and the struggles of the female characters in the show. And I remember seeing that in my maybe third rewatch of the show, and this is one of those shows that I will rewatch again and again and again, because it's just a comfort show after a while. It's just like, oh my god, this is so much fun. Just to live in some other world for a while that's completely dilapidated and falling apart. And what would you do if you were in this apocalyptic scenario? But to see the show, and I'm paying attention to the names of who's directing each episode and who's writing them, because as soon as I see women doing it more, I'm like, oh, this is why the general population of men, or white men specifically, started complaining about the show and started falling off, but the show continued to be on the air. The show has gone 11 seasons at least, and I think they're in their final season now, with the potential of spin-offs of the show.
So
but they focus on characters like Carol, and
I believe the main show
awesome.
ended earlier this year, but there are spin-offs.
Is it gone?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure earlier this year the final episode of the original Walking Dead aired. But there are like 2 spin-offs, I think.
Oh, see, I accidentally wrote season finale. Series finale. The Walking Dead series finale will be The Walking Dead season 11, episode 24. And it has, you're right. Yeah, November. So they and I know that there's spinoffs coming with like Rick and I'm pretty sure Michonne. But what I remember most is that in my most recent rewatch, because I think I got up to season 10 in the most recent time I watched it, I was still engaged. I loved the shit that I was seeing, and I loved seeing more focus on specifically the women characters. Not everything has to be about gender, but when it comes to such a specific thing, and then you hear all the time, oh, yeah, like the majority of the men I talk to about the show are like, oh, that show hasn't been good since season 4. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to start paying attention to who made the episodes.
For me, I fell off mainly, I think, because I found like the villain, I think the governor might be his name, aimed to be
Season
really
2, 3 and 4.
boring.
He was the
To be really boring. And so I just fell off after that. And
fair.
I have not watched any of the episodes that actually have Negan in it.
Ooh, man.
Yeah.
There are, and that's the tricky part, is like, there's no doubt in my mind that season 2 is one of the best seasons to this day of that show. It's incredible. And John Barenthal is amazing. And I'm so glad that he got the role of the Punisher. As soon as I heard he was the Punisher, I was like, yes, that's the guy. That's perfect. Because he steals the show in that second season. And there maybe hasn't been a great long arc for a character since him. But the governor, in this most recent rewatch, I loved him. I was like, this is a guy I love to hate because he's so charismatic, and he like wins you over with not only the way he's written, but the way he acts out the scenes. He's great. But anyways, this isn't the Walking Dead podcast, so I will I'll divert.
So I think the last 2 characters we haven't really brought up is Nebula and Gamora. I think they were that particularly Karen Gillan did an absolutely incredible job in the film. I like how we ended off with Gamora. It's like, she is this different person, but she still has a bit of that personality that we know and like. I saw someone, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I like this idea that in like the last we see Groot and Gamora are in the film, and they're just having like this little bit of a heart-to-heart conversation. We don't really get all of it. Like, I like them. Like what I read or watched or saw. I said that this person believed those like basically Groot was really happy to see his mom, basically a kind of that way. His mom sort of role. And that even though I don't know if that's true about what James Gunn was trying to go for, but I think that's a really cool headcanon. And that
I think that
feels good.
It makes sense, because if not as directly as, okay, she's the mom, so Quill's the dad, and that's it. Like she's part of the family. She's part of the family from
I think
volume
really
2. You see that they're a unit at that point.
Yeah, I think everybody else is really like parents to Groot.
Of course.
Yeah,
because from volume 2, you see them all interacting, and they're all taking care of Groot. And they're even just throwing him behind their shoulder, and someone else catching him and making sure he's okay. Everyone is taking care of baby Groot. To the point where, yes, Gamora specifically makes the most sense for him to look to as his mom, or at least a responsible mother figure. So that is a really special idea, and for him to her to understand him by the end was really cool.
Yeah, I think if I remember what the person was saying was like Groot is really happy that his this version of his mom actually can understand him now. What they're saying, and that and which that also brings us to the next point I think is really cool with Groot and this is something that James Gunn actually confirmed on social media. When he says "I love you guys," that was not him speaking English. That was literally we are finally starting to understand him.
Yeah, I have a brand new coworker. Actually, she's 20 years old. She's kind of a casual viewer of the Marvel movies. She goes and sees them with family all the time. I asked her like, what did you think of that moment when Groot said, I love you guys," and she was like, "I just think it was nice that he finally learned English," and I was just like, "Well, hang on." What I was hearing, what was confirmed apparently by the director, was that now we understand them, and now after these 3 movies, we can now be part of the language and understand like we're part of the Guardians.
Like
And she was
we
like,
have, we have
mind
spent.
blown. She was like, "I love that."
Yeah,
So much
it's
better.
supposed to be that. It's supposed to be like, so all the Guardians, they have spent all of this time with him on and off screen, and that's how they were able to understand him.
Mhm.
Over these 5 films and 1 TV special, has been enough time that we are finally able to understand him.
Yeah, I loved that. I thought that was a really nice touch. And when and just seeing the delight when I told my coworker that idea, I was like, "By the way, this has been confirmed. This is what they meant to do." And she was like, "That's so much better." I was like, "Yeah, because it's not like he's pretending he doesn't speak English. He's still only able to say, 'I am Groot,' but now we can understand what the hell he's talking about because you become part of the family." It's a beautiful thing. It's a really smart way to do it. It was very moving. Because that "I am Groot" moment at the end of the first movie was so impactful, and it's been what, almost 10 years since that movie. So 9 years later, we're getting another impactful moment that everybody can go home and discuss about. They could talk about it until they're blue in the face.
We are almost at an hour and a half after reviewing this film. Is there any last things you would like to talk about for the film?
I really liked the way people left off, the way that Nebula also felt like a extension of Quill in a way that she was a leader. Now you've got no Quill and you got no Gamora. That is the leader of the Guardians, and she did a great job. Karen Gillan should not be undersold in this movie. Holy shit,
honest,
she good.
Honest, I think we will see a lot of these characters again.
In different contexts, for sure.
To be honest,
good.
I even think we'll see Drax again.
Really?
Whether that is Dave Bautista or not, I think we'll see him again.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think Dave Bautista was as though overhyping up how angry he was at Disney as a way to hype up this final film, because it's obvious he wasn't actually that angry at Disney. Since, as I mentioned last time I talked about this, he does ads for Disney Plus. How can you be angry at Disney but still take their money? That's so. I think even Drax will see again, and I think we will get the end of Drax's journey that he's supposed to have of fighting Thanos. The reason I say that is I would be very surprised if in Secret Wars we don't get some other universe version of Thanos just so we can see that fight.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
I think.
I have no idea if that's gonna happen.
Well, yeah, but I would like that. That seems like a very great thing of having having like kind of like bringing back the last most powerful villain to and then I would have that he has a fight again with Drax, a rematch with Hulk, and then he gets killed by Kang. And that being a way to tell the audience Kang is even worse than Thanos.
Means business.
Yeah. I think that I think that's is a pretty good possibility. I think they're going to use. I think they will very much use those Secret Wars to be able to give different characters the conclusions to their arcs that they haven't been able to get for one reason or another.
Yeah. Well said. I have one final thing to say about how this movie came out. I, much like Clinton of the Avengers podcast, was avoiding trailers. I was avoiding everything I could. After seeing the first trailer, I was like, okay, cool. I'm sold. I'm going to go see it. I don't want to see anything else. And knowing Marvel, they have to pump out a billion TV spots, a billion short teasers, whatever.
Yeah,
What
that's-
annoyed me most is I saw whether it was, I don't think it was Marvel necessarily, but it was a magazine or something like that on social media boasting that this movie was the best MCU movie since Endgame. They've saved it. They've figured it out. They
I'm
squashed the curse or whatever.
I'm
What
so
bothered me so
tired
much.
of the best Marvel movie since Endgame, or it's finally
Yes.
good again. I'm
Yeah.
so tired of that
Hate it.
because that makes it seem like there hasn't been anything that's been good. Like,
Yeah.
sure, Phase 4 had some things that and said a lot of people didn't like, but not everything was bad. There were a lot of amazing
ton of good.
things in Phase 4.
No Way Home, Moon Knight, Miss
Phase
Marvel.
4,
Like, there's a ton of
like,
good stuff. She-Hulk was great
Phase
in a lot of
4
ways.
Phase 4 had the most different feeling Marvel
Yes.
projects and was the best
From each other.
and
Yes.
the best representation we've got from Marvel.
And the parallel that
one
the
thing
reason I brought up, sorry, you go ahead first.
The one thing that I'm very worried about with how Marvel listened to the people whining about Phase 4 or about of not liking it, the one thing that I'm very worried about is that Marvel could take that as, let's not try as hard with representation as we did in Phase 4.
2 steps back, 1 step
I
forward, 2
would
steps
be
back, right?
that would
Yeah.
be the worst thing that can happen because of that because
Yeah.
that is one of the biggest things that is cool about Phase 4 is that they tried so hard to add representation, whether that be LGBTQ characters, whether that be women, whether or people of different ethnicities is getting films.
Yeah.
There was so much that to Phase
Mm-hmm.
4 that we could never have seen before that.
Yeah. Diversity in all directions was a great thing to see instead of just white dudes.
Mm-hmm. Like,
White
so
dudes, Marvel,
I am
white
very
dudes. Why
I'm
would you want
very
that?
scared that they will
I don't think
they
I
will
think you
see
can trust
that
them.
as see people didn't like that we added all these things.
You're seeing the same thing that we were talking about earlier with the squeaky wheel gets the grease. You're seeing the very loud, very present, the very online only. You need to go outside and touch some fucking grass, which grass is green, and we know how you love green. They need to go touch some grass because much like this is why I brought up The Walking Dead, is they are progressing to more demographics.
Yeah.
And that is my favorite thing that Marvel's been doing recently.
The thing is,
I didn't love MOM. I didn't love Thor Love and Thunder, but those are 2 of the white guy movies that we saw this last while.
Sure. Sure, I understand. And I'm maybe sounding a little bit like a hypocrite if saying like there's because as I did say, not not the majority of people is actually online.
I wasn't trying to call you a hypocrite.
But it's very obvious that the criticisms they took are not from the majority of people, but instead from the people online that actually criticized it. Because the people who aren't online would not have been able to criticize it. So that's why why I take the fact that there was so many complaints from people online about the representation. That's why I'm worried about the representation going forward, and that's and that's not just from us from right wing people, but also there was complaints from left wing people. Although the ones from left wing people is saying that they didn't do enough, which to be honest, yeah, there's a long way forward. There's a long way forward for them to go.
Yeah,
but they did a pretty damn good job of getting a lot in Phase 4.
Way more forward thinking, way more diversity than I think anyone expected from Disney, to be honest. So, but no, I was gonna say that the seeing the marketing turn and say this is the best thing since Endgame pissed me off. But also, pardon me, you might have heard that burp. I apologize. The other thing is that I was so glad that it was different from Endgame. I was so glad that this was a movie.
yeah.
Like, if people who say like the whole like superhero formula or whatever, this
Mhm.
movie was different as fuck, and that's
Oh,
one of
yeah,
the best things about it.
one thing I was thinking about was like the climax of this movie is not really them fighting anti-evolutionary. They beat his ass really quickly. The climax is them saving the animals.
Yes.
Anything else that is a very different thing to everything else we've seen.
100%.
The
I mean, like the tone and the editing and the
yeah.
fun of it and the progression of the story, just from formula wise, I feel was very much. I didn't know where the hell they were going. I didn't know what was going to happen next. I didn't know everybody was going to be okay, but I was also great with it in the end. Like,
Yeah.
I was surprised. And I think that's what when someone compares a movie to Endgame, I would like anything but that to happen. I don't want to see Endgame again. I want to see something different.
Yeah.
And that's why every movie that has come out in phase 5 and phase 4 has been different from Endgame in a great way. The two that I don't like, it's really only two.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even that they were similar to Endgame that made me annoyed, or that they weren't enough like Endgame. It was just that they were poorly written, in my opinion. But the rest of it in phase 4 and phase 5 have been a lot different. I'd say Quantumania, honestly, out of everything, Quantumania is the closest thing to Endgame. Didn't love Quantumania, but Guardians 3 was nothing like that. It was very secluded, very self-contained in its own trilogy, and had not a lot to do with the rest of the Marvel universe, which I liked a lot.
Now, I do have a couple last things that I've heard online that are that have that I do want to bring up that aren't specifically about this film, but are but kind of annoy me. Hey, one you know how last year throughout like because of people not liking Multiverse of Madness and Love and Thunder, people were so awful about Taika Waititi and Sam Raimi. Like they acted like they cannot make a single good film. And like and I heard something in the past few days on Twitter that took that at hatred way too far over the edge. As someone I saw someone say on social media that because of that Taika Waititi deserves to be Hitler's roommate in hell. Like you're comparing him to Hitler because you don't like Thor: Love and Thunder. That is a fucked up comparison.
Like, don't get me wrong. I would love to see Taika Waititi direct a movie where he plays Hitler's roommate in hell, because he has played Hitler in Jojo Rabbit, and I'd love to see that.
But also, it's
no way does he deserve that.
But also, part of why it's kind of a fucked up thing is, well, at least from according to what I read, Taika is Jewish. So to compare him to Hitler is really insanely fucked up.
I agree. That's fucked up. And I don't even have that much. I have less. I'm less annoyed with Taika than I am Sam Raimi, because I think the majority of the Taika projects I've seen have been great.
Oh yeah.
And when it comes to Sam Raimi, it's like I grew up loving him. I love the original Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 3 is a problem for me, as it is for most people. But many things I've seen Sam Raimi do since Spider-Man 3 have also been not very good. So like Drag Me to Hell, The Great Oz, like there's movies that he's come up with since that have been real flops. And when I heard that he was doing this new Doctor Strange, I was like, oh, I kind of wanted to see what the other guy was going to do. Scott Derrickson. I wanted to see what Scott Derrickson was going to do.
I can understand that.
Bummed out.
The thing is, like the thing with Sam Raimi that is one reason I defend and Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, as I mentioned this before, is I like how there is a sort of a little bit of a feel like the Evil Dead movies, and I find that to be kind of cool.
Yeah.
And and I love the Evil Dead movies. I still haven't seen an Evil Dead Rise yet. I need to because I've heard a lot of great things about it. But yeah.
I saw a trailer for Taika Waititi's new movie with Michael Fassbender
haven't-
called Next
I
Goal
haven't
Wins.
seen the trailer for that yet. Ed. I should probably watch that because everything
looks
I've
hilarious.
watched, everything other than Love and Thunder that I've seen out of Taika Waititi's his brain is some of the best films I've ever watched.
Yeah. What We Do in the Shadows is great. Eagle
Mhm.
versus Shark is fantastic.
Evil versus Shark? I've never heard of that.
Eagle versus Shark.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, he wrote a movie with the one guy from Flight of the Conchords, Jermaine, in a very awkward comedy. It's very funny. I highly recommend it. He does a great job at writing rom-coms that are very bizarre.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's also like Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah.
Where the Wildebeest are is one I feel like a lot not as many people have heard of, but I love Where the Wildebeest Are.
Wait,
I
where
believe.
is that what it's
Or
called? Oh shit! I know what you're talking
something
about.
Wildebeest.
It's with Sam Neill.
Sam Neill
and the kid from
Deadpool
2.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh shit! What is that movie called?
I believe it was Where the Wildebeest Are.
Because there's
there's
Where the Wild Things Are.
It's
and then there's-
something Wildebeest.
Yeah.
There's definitely something Wildebeest.
I just lost it. I was just trying to find it. I think he directed it, but maybe didn't write it. Hang on a second. It's not showing up. Anyways.
Other thing I want to bring up, and this is again because of that post about Lord of the Rings. Is people in trying to say that that She-Hulk was not comic book accurate. They brought up one thing that actually was not comic book accurate about the show, which is the origin of She-Hulk. The thing is, they could not do the origin of She-Hulk how it was in the comics. It would not have made sense at all in the show. I don't think you were on with me when I did read out the She-Hulk origin on the Patreon, but within the comics, it is that Jen gets shot up by a bunch of mobsters
Right.
while Bruce is visiting her. Bruce is still on the run at this point, so he can't take her to a hospital. He has to give her a blood transfusion or she's gonna die.
I think we read it. Didn't we do that comic?
I don't remember if you were there or not. You may have been, but so the only reason that works in the comics is because he's on the run. If he was not on the run, then then he would be the biggest idiot in the world to give her that blood transfusion because he knows the possible consequences of that.
Yeah.
He would not want to give anyone that curse if he doesn't have to. And the thing is, these same right wingers who are complaining that that's not in it, that original comic origin's not in it. Though I'm pretty sure the only reason they want that is because it has Jen being a damsel in distress. But if they gave us basically that, then then one of their criticisms of the show, sign that is not actually true in the actual show, of all the men being portrayed as dumb, like this would be if they gave us that comic origin, Bruce would be 1,000 times dumber than any of the characters that are actually in the show.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Because there's no it would be absolutely insane for one of the smartest people in the world who knows the consequences, the possible consequences of someone getting his blood in them, to just willingly give them his blood if he doesn't have to.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm sorry to everyone listening that I've been mentioning She-Hulk a lot throughout this. I just this is just something that I've been thinking about a lot this week because of these right wingers just getting in my mentions on Twitter so much. Like it was so I felt the need. I got to defend this again. The Now I don't think there's really that much else we need to talk about for Guardians. So I'm gonna end off this episode. Unless there's any last things you want to say.
I don't think that this movie necessarily was like another Endgame, but it was a damn great second movie for Phase 5, and made me very excited for everything that could come.
Yeah, and it saddens me that there's not gonna be another Marvel film till November.
Ah, now you're reminding me. But I'm very excited for the Marvels.
Oh yeah,
so that looks dope, and more Beastie Boys. I gotta love the tone that they set.
Oh, that's one last thing I should actually mention about this film that I absolutely love is the use of 2000s music.
Yes.
Because of the fact that it's a Zune playing in the film. And the reason I love that obviously is because it gives me nostalgia for when I was a kid, because I was born in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I love that little bit about normally I would do an announcer voice thing, but since it's getting pretty late, I'm just gonna end this off. So thank you everyone for listening. And if you like this game analysis, please give a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episodes. Please let me know. If you like to listen to more from me, please subscribe. Many more Gamma analysis coming, so keep on the lookout. This again is your host, Smash Ray John, signing off.